Antonio. To manipulate history is to manipulate consciousness. And to manipulate consciousness is to manipulate possibilities. And to manipulate possibilities is to manipulate power. Welcome, welcome to the show. Got a great show for you today. Look like the sun may be trying to peek his head out a little bit in Cleveland. We'll see. I don't know. This just seems like these days, these years is going by just not the same. We go through this sprinter, as one of my friends say, a combination between spring and winter. Well, we're not getting the days that we used to have of yesteryear. Used to be warm, getting warm, and these little nice sprinkle April showers and stuff, but the temperatures is not quite there, and I usually track it because of when I used to do the parade and things like that. It seemed like we never did get to where we needed to be until about Memorial's Day, getting into the 75s and 80s. But this is Cleveland, stick around, it'll change on you. We got a great show for you today. In the remote studio, we got our main man, Brother Vince. What's going on?
Well, I am happy to tell you that tomorrow evening at Larchmere Arts, we are going to have a phenomenal artist by the name of Alcy Clay. She has an Afrofuturism exhibition that will be opening at 6 o'clock. So we would like to ask you to come on through and check it out. There's going to be an artist talk. I'm going to play piano for a little bit, and it promises to be a great time. Also, another event to look forward to on the 25th of April, we are going to welcome back to Larchmere Arts Gloria Cummings-Jones with her trio of Elijah Gilmore, Brad McGee, and last but not least, Ed Ridley. So it is a beautiful evening of jazz. We want you to come on through and enjoy it. You can get your tickets at the door. It's $20 to get in, but I promise you it will be well worth it. And then on May 10th, we are going to welcome to Larchmere Arts Mr. George Lee Jr. He is a phenomenal poet. He's also a visual artist. And as an added extra, we're going to have Essence. Kim Essence Hunt Edge is going to be doing a live painting, which will be raffled off at the end of the evening. So lots of good stuff coming up at Larchmere Arts. Go to our Facebook page, check it out. Click on the events tab and you can get all of the details about the events that we are having. So that's what's happening at Larchmere Arts. Now, in terms of what's happening at 360 Info Network, we do talking about African culture and history and politics and current affairs and all that good stuff, Brother Lynn. But today I decided to put the focus on health. So we are going to welcome to our airwaves Dr. Stella Iwuagwu. She is a phenomenal person because things have happened to her in her life, and she decided not to just take those things in, but she decided to do something about them. So let me just give you a little background on her. She's a social entrepreneur and passionate human rights advocate. She earned a Bachelor of Nursing Science degree from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and a master's degree in public health from the University of Ibadan. Following her outstanding service and leadership in the field of reproductive health and rights in Nigeria, she was granted Oprah Winfrey's funded African Women's Public Service Fellowship for a master's degree in management at the Wagner School of Public Service, New York University. She obtained a PhD in health education from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, through the Walker Presidential Fellowship. And that's just a small snapshot of her illustrious background. So with all of that, it brings me great joy and pleasure to introduce to you again Dr. Stella Iwuagwu. She was with us during Kwanzaa, and so we've had a taste of what she has to offer, and we are very pleased to have her on the air with us today. Welcome to 360 Info Network, Dr. Iwuagwu.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Antonio. It's a
Yes,
pleasure
sir.
to be with you.
Mhm.
All right. So as I indicated at the top of the show, we talk about health on our show quite a bit, and I think it's really important to have subject matter experts on the show with us that can give us the information that we need. We're bombarded with information about all kinds of things, but when it comes to our health, a lot of times we pass by that because it may not be as titillating, as interesting as the celebrity news and gossip, or all this back and forth about the person who's running the country or allegedly running the country. We can get all off into that. But one of the most important things that we can do so that we can enjoy our time on this planet called Earth is we can experience optimum health. And I know that you've been through quite a few challenges in your own life, and those challenges have led you to look for solutions outside of the allopathic method of medicine in our country. So you're very well versed in herbs. We had a conversation yesterday, and you revealed to me, well, actually, day before yesterday, but you revealed to me that you have several fruit trees in your yard. So you know the benefit of fruit, you know what it does for the body, and you're not just saying, okay, well, I know it's good for me. You're saying, I'm gonna grow some, and when I need that plum, when I need that apple, when I need those grapes, I could just go out in the backyard, and I don't have to make that trip to Giant Eagle or Whole Foods or whatever. I got it cracking at my own residence. And I think this is something that many of us can pick up in our own lives. It could be as simple as putting a 5-gallon paint bucket in the backyard and planting some seeds in it and let it do what it do. Talk to us about the importance of urban agriculture.
Well, urban agriculture is the trend. It's really something that you can derive a lot of pleasure from. One, you have control. It gives you control over what you eat. You know, we you cannot accomplish health without accomplishing healthy food and healthy environment. And urban agriculture gives you opportunity to have both. Because when you plant trees, whether fruit trees or you plant your vegetables and herbs and spices in your garden, it's you're interacting intimately, you're participating in the food that you're eating, and you have a choice what you put in it, whether choose to grow them with chemical or you choose to grow all natural. That is really an important way that you can take leadership in your autonomy towards your health. You know, it is so easy to do. You can do raised bed garden, you can do container garden, whether you have a yard or you have just your balcony. As long as you have space that something can grow in, it can be a good way to recycle containers, that ordinarily you would have had to throw into the trash, the landfill. So your make containers can be cut open, filled with soil, and you can plant your lettuce there. You can plant you can plant mint and different herbs, your oregano. You can plant rosemary, lavender. So all the containers in your home, and it can be arranged in a way that adorns your home. I called it the concept of edible landscaping. No, most of the time when we do landscapes, we are thinking mainly about flowers. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can also grow herbs. There are a lot of edible flowers that you can grow, that you can derive benefit. You enjoy the ambience, the beauty of it. But you can also derive health benefits. Many vegetables flower. You can do what we call container garden, where you use up whatever container you have, or you can go even fancy and get some really nice containers from the garden store and arrange it in your garden and plant edible vegetables, herbs, and spices in your garden. So it can be that simple. And you can go further if you have the land space to actually create beautiful pathways and areas where you can sit and you can plant vegetables, you can plant herbs, you can plant fruit trees, and you enjoy it. I have a riddle that I shared on my Facebook page. What is the most delicious fruit in the whole world? And the answer is the one you grow yourself. you know so it is easier. FDA says that we're supposed to have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. If we have to go to the market or to the store to get it, sometimes it might not happen. But if it's right there in your backyard, in your balcony, it's a lot easier to integrate them into your diet. You don't even need to cook. You wake up in the morning, you go out, and then you're in your backyard and you can take a walk. You can connect with nature. And it also adds to the environment. Right now, there's a lot of hula baloo over the death of bees and butterflies and pollinators, all the things, we want to live in, it will bring creatures. Creatures are part of our environment, it's part of the balance of nature. So you need the pollinators, the butterflies, the bees, and all of the wasps. All of that are part of nature. And when you plant vegetables and herbs and spices and flowers in your garden, those come. The birds come. So you are more in tune with nature. Apart from the health benefit of just eating from your garden, the act of gardening is in itself healing. It is very easy to do 10 squats without even realizing you've done 10 squats. By the time you bend down and pick up weed, or you bend down and put something in the ground, you're getting your exercises. You're breathing fresh air. Most times we're inbound, housebound. But when you're under a tree or you're connecting with nature, you find out that you're actually getting more oxygen. The trees that we plant purify the air, and once you're engaging with nature, you're engaging with the soil, you're getting all those beneficial microorganisms that are within your soil and in your garden. It's also contributing to your health. Why do we want to spend hours in the gym when we can spend a few minutes in our garden? Then your garden can also be your pharmacy. I call it FARMACY, pharmacy. There are a lot of medicinal plants you can grow in your garden. So instead of running to the pharmacy shop to get something for that tummy ache or that indigestion, you can go to your garden and get some rosemary tea or some thyme tea or some mint. All of those will aid your indigestion and contribute to other health benefits. You can plant ginger. You can actually have all your ginger in containers. You have that 5-gallon bucket. Even if you don't have the bucket, plastic bags, you can grow things in them once you have good soil. And another thing that gardening does is it enables you to compost. All that waste you ordinarily would have thrown away, you can actually compost them and get good quality soil that is really healthy. And it's just the cycle of things. It's a zero waste concept, that everything that comes out from your kitchen scraps goes into your garden and nourishes your soil. And it is just a good way to protect the environment, a good way to nurture the environment, a good way to nurture yourself. And the food and the environment that you live in are one of the most critical aspects of your health. Because sometimes when we talk about health, we're going to you'll focus more on what is happening within the hospital systems and all that. There's the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Do we want to keep the doctor away? Then you got to grow that apple. Because if you grow that apple, there are many health benefits to it, even to our environment. We don't have to wait for our food to come from Mexico, to come from China, to come from long distances where we burn more carbon. The carbon footprints where the food is coming from long distances also contributes to the devastation of the environment. So our young people must be engaged. We have so many spaces, particularly the eastern part of Cleveland. I see many empty lots. Why are we not turning them into garden? Why are we not turning them into orchards so that our young people, our children, our students, our elderly can all engage in the communal gardening, in collective gardening? I look forward to having more garden clubs. In my culture where I come from, gardening is never done solo. You can do solo, it becomes a way of meditation. I remember my daughter Christabel, she wrote her college essay one time and she said, I love spring. She loves spring because spring is a time we get into the garden and we start planting and growing things. Things are springing to life. In my backyard right now, the plum tree is awash with flowers. It is so beautiful. All the things that were dead in the winter is springing back to life. We do what we call spring cleaning. Let it also be cleaning of our environment outdoors, also spring cleaning of our inside, because we're planning. You can plant lettuce, you can plant your squash. There's nothing you cannot grow. Then there's also the concept I call vertical gardening. You know, you can plant if you have, most of us have perimeter fencing in our properties, and those spaces are sometimes bare and ugly. You can actually turn them to a space of beauty. You can grow your cucumber and allow them to trail on that wall. You can grow your squash in a container and allow them to trail on that wall. Just imagine, can you visualize it with me? How we can change our landscape, it can become beautiful and lush with food, with,
Well,
with greenery.
I just want to just jump in real quickly and talk about something that you mentioned, and that is the fact that produce commonly is transported over long distances and over a period of time. And what I've heard, and you can corroborate this if you will, but there is a difference in the quality of the fruit or vegetable that's grown locally versus something that comes from another country or from another state. Can you talk a little bit about the benefit of having it here and perhaps the relationship of what you're growing here to the biosphere and how much more suitable it is to you as a consumer who eats something that's grown in your backyard versus eating something that was grown on the other side of the world?
One, there's the personal satisfaction. And then when you harvest directly from your garden to your pot, it's more nutritious. You're harvesting at the peak. The enzymes are active because when you harvest, the longer the time between when you harvest and when you eat the food, the quality of the nutrients deteriorates the longer you store. So most of the food that are transported long distance lose some of their nutritional value in the course of transportation. Also, most times, in order to preserve the food, they would have to, so that they can it to enable it to survive the long journey and the time it takes to move it from a faraway farm to the store and then to your table. They would have to put some chemicals to protect it. They may have to put some paraffin and all kinds of stuff to ensure that it doesn't get it doesn't spoil. So all this contributes to the quality of the food that you're eating. So would you rather eat apple that is right from your garden, you wash it and you eat it, or would you rather eat apple that is already coated in paraffin and all kinds of preservatives? The
Yes.
the choice is quite I mean, everybody, we can never do away with stores. It might not be possible to grow everything all year, but at least do the little you can. And the thing about it is, gardening is addictive in a positive way. Once you start growing, once you start experiencing the joy of growing these things yourself, you'll find that you want to do more, you want to do more. And the more of us that can do this, it will really impact our health in general. And
Yeah.
you know what? What is also beautiful about it? You can never ever finish the things you've grown. You can never eat it all by yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can never eat it all by yourself. For
Yeah.
me, the miracle of sharing my harvest is one of the fun part of gardening. Can you imagine if your neighbor brings you a basket of apple and you bring your neighbor a basket of cherries or pears? You know, sometimes in the summer I sit in my in front of my yard. My mailman comes. Would you want some pear? I give him pear. You know, my delivery man comes. I give him apple, and I brew them and put it outside. Passerbys, can you? Oh, and then what I found very interesting is people appreciate it and they go, "Oh God, this reminds me of when my grandmother's house. We used to have peach, we used to have apples." You remember, their grandmothers. So what would our grandchildren remember about us?
Good point.
So there was a time when it was the norm.
Mhm.
Our darling sister Michelle Obama started gardening in the White House and people were making fun of her. But that is our cue. That is
Mhm.
our heritage. It's nothing to be ashamed about. How is it that we are hungry? We are hungry. We're getting poor quality food from stores and we're busy growing grass,
Mhm.
mowing grass, maintaining grass. it's really, we need to do a mindset change. It's really a mindset
Yes,
change.
it really is interesting, Dr. Stella, when you think about how we view our lawns. We look at the dandelions like they're our enemies, and the dandelions growing in our yard have roots in them that can help us deal with cancer.
Both,
That they got
both the
leaves
roots,
in them
both
that
the
can
roots, both the
energize
flowers,
us.
both the leaves.
You can even eat the flower tops of dandelions.
Exactly.
So they have so much benefit to us, but then we let companies like Scott's sell us
And
on
then
the
you just
idea that
spray it. And
they
then you're
and
spraying
then
all these chemicals, and then you're walking on your chemically infused lawn, and you think that is healthy?
yes.
We need to redefine what health is. We need to take the power back. We have ourselves to blame. So if there's anything that I'm adding to Cleveland, is to let them know that we can take control over our environment. We can adorn it and make it beautiful, and also have it feed us. We can grow community around gardening. This is the time. We can do intergenerational connection. Let the grandmothers and fathers and the young people garden together to create food and cook together. That could be fun recreation. And you know what? Gardening is also spiritual. Everybody is running to their churches and mosques and trying to worship. For me, nature is the biggest temple. The biggest miracle for me happens in the garden. You take a tiny seed, you put it in the ground, and you watch it a few days open up. You cannot be sad. You marvel at the regeneration. Something was put in the ground, it died, it came back up, arises. And then it explodes, it flowers, it creates beauty, it feeds the flowers and the birds, and they perch. The symbiosis of life. And then they are perching and appreciating your flowers and getting from their nectar. In the course of that, they are pollinating your crop. And then a few months later, a few weeks later, even for some, you're ready to eat it. One tiny seed gives you abundance of fruits, abundance of vegetable. If that's not a miracle, I don't know what is.
I
So,
agree.
Yeah, I
I
so
agree.
mean, we're really all miracles. I mean, as you explain this, I'm just thinking about how we are seeds. We're star seeds. And as these beings that exist in this universe, we plant seeds. And then those seeds grow into beautiful beings that are capable of cultivating more. We're a reflection of what the universe is. I really
indeed,
like what you said about community gardening, because it occurred to me, and I had this thought earlier in the week. If everybody grew one thing, as you have, because you've got all those trees in your yard with all that fruit, but if everybody just grew one thing, and you said we can't eat it all, so we have to share it. So everybody grew
Mhm.
something and shared it. We could all eat, and it would be a relatively low cost because we wouldn't even have to involve money in this scenario. You grow
exactly.
apples, I grow plums, Antonio grows celery. When I need some celery, I go hit up Antonio. You need some grapes, bruh? I got you.
I got you.
That's
That's
who
how it
we
used
are.
to
That's
be.
a
As
part
That's how
of
it,
our
community.
cultural
that's how it used.
heritage. So
And then,
there's so
it
many.
is, and what you get out of that is not just the food, it's social connection. Another very important pillar for health. You
Mm-hmm.
can have all the money in the world, you can buy the best food from all the best places in the world, and you are isolated. You're going to watch your health plummet.
Mm-hmm.
Loneliness has been declared an epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
So gardening, communal gardening, sharing our food is also an important component of health that provides social connection.
Mm-hmm.
So the benefits are immense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
of course, it can also lead to wealth creation. What started for me as a hobby, just planting, has led to the incorporation of sustainable demonstration farms, because we were demonstrating, started with showing people what is possible. Now it's an enterprise. So how many new entrepreneurs are we going to grow in Cleveland by pushing the concept of urban farming, backyard farming, homestead farming? For example, even in terms of, you can never finish what you grow, right? So even the one you didn't share with your neighbor, you can preserve, you can freeze, you can dehydrate, you can store. Right now, I still have apple from last year that I dehydrated that I eat as snacks. I still have fruits and vegetables from last year that is in the freezer that are blanched and packed. So this ensures sustainability. So one person can decide to grow just spices, grow spices and herbs, and at the end of the season, dehydrate them and package them. So we don't have to wait for imports of spices. That can become a local entrepreneur, a local business that can emerge. So another benefit, we can make money. I have a concept because I've been fundraising to plant fruit trees in schools, particularly in Nigeria, where malnutrition is very rife. 60% of the community are living below the poverty rate, and the food insecurity is a really major crisis. A lot of the kids are malnourished. Sometimes we've had to import vitamins from, the packaged vitamins from America or wherever, whoever could donate. But now that USAID is out of the loop, and even while they are there, the cost of, when you calculate the cost of bringing that one vitamin to that kid in the school, why can we not have a paradigm shift? Why don't we plant the vitamins? So what am I doing? I'm doing a campaign to plant fruit trees in schools, because in many countries, like impoverished countries in Africa and even some places here, the one time when a kid like me, when I was growing up, when I can get really good food was in school. I know on my way to school or in the school compound during break, I can get some oranges, I can get pear, I can get whatever fruit that is in season is abundant in the school. That was what school was like when I was growing up. But today, a lot of those trees have been cut down and nobody's planting new one. So now we're on a campaign to plant fruit trees in schools. And our slogan is money grows on trees. We can actually put money on trees. If I tell you that money grows on trees, wouldn't you want to plant the trees and pluck some of the money?
No
Something
doubt.
like papaya. Papaya is a tropical fruit. Within 6 to 9 months, is already fruiting. And if you plant one tiny papaya seed, you're going to harvest over 100 papaya fruits within a 9-month period. When I do the maths with the kids, they agree with me that money grows on tree. You plant one banana sucker, and in 9 months, you're having this whole big bunch of banana. And then that banana is generating more banana suckers that you can plant or that can expand from one banana in the first year. By the second year, you could actually be having 10 or more. So money do grow on tree. So that is really highlighting the entrepreneurial component of homestead gardening, of really teaching our kids. Because if we can teach them in school, if we can make it something that they can be creative about, then we are nurturing the next generation of food stewards, of environmental stewards. Because many kids in this generation are so stuck with their games and the TV and the social media, they don't even know where their food come from.
Hmm.
What are we
Yes.
communicating? What are we passing down?
Mhm.
So gardening, this intergenerational connection is a way. Let's start telling stories about gardens. So in the intergenerational storytelling, it's something Lashmere Arts can do. Let's have an intergenerational storytelling around gardening and food. Let elderly tell us what it was like in their grandmother's time. Because now urban farming is so glamorized. There are even sometimes you don't even need soil. There is what we call hydroponic or aquaponic, where you grow. Once you have this nutrient that the plant needs, all you need is water. Put the nutrient in water and your plants will be growing. That is technology that kids can begin to connect with, that they can begin to get excited about.
You know, as you say that, Dr. Stella, it seems as though that should be a component of the education system. You know, we do so much giving of information and taking back of information, but are we creating stewards of the earth in our schools? And if everybody could understand how to do something as simple as put a seed in the ground and let something grow and feed yourself, that in itself is a revolutionary idea. I want to take this opportunity to remind our viewers and our listeners that you're listening to 360 Info Network right here on AM 1490 WERE. We are currently simulcasting on YouTube and Facebook. You can visit our respective channels, the Journey with Antonio and also Vince Robinson on Facebook, and you can view our program and you can see it after we go off the air. So go to our respective YouTube channels, like, comment, subscribe, and share these broadcasts with others so that they can get the benefit of the great information that you're getting right here on 360 Info Network. Our guest today is Dr. Stella Iwuagwu. She does a lot of things. She is an advocate for those who have disabilities. She also is an advocate for those who have dealt with the issue of prostate cancer. She has a book that she co-authored with someone else that gives you all the information on how you can deal with the prostate and the kinds of foods that you can eat and exercises that you can do to make sure that your prostate is in good order. And she also has some great ideas about urban agriculture that she is sharing with us today. She also has an event that's coming up in a few weeks, and we definitely want to make sure that we give her an opportunity to tell you all about that. So we will continue our conversation with Dr. Stella Iwuagwu. Brother Antonio, I know that you've been taking all of this in, and I know that it's something that resonates deeply with you as you consider the I guess the relationship between the Nguzo Saba and some of the concepts that she's talked about. You know, we've got collective work and responsibility. We've got cooperative economics. You know, we've got purpose. We've got all these things interwoven into our conversation. What are your thoughts about what she has shared with us thus far?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Once some of the things that stuck out and strikes me, about this whole connection, because when I did my little piece, if you remember, I talked about marveling at nature, marveling at the sun, the stars, and things. And I think this system that we're in, and we're following the wrong lead, mind you. It's taken us so far away from nature and our God consciousness, and we're just a figment of what we could and used to be, by dealing and operating the way we operate on this planet now. And so what resonated with me, what she was talking about, the connection with Mother Earth. Let me, if I was to say, what sometimes we'd say and talk about when we speak in reference to God, we say God created the earth, God created nature. But the African's version of that is God is nature. Now, when she talked about putting that little seed in and watching it do its thing, that's life giving life. So it's life in the soil. It's life. And so if God is nature if nature is that expression, if God is that expression of nature, you're interacting with God when you're doing that. And when you're messing with the soil and receiving all the benefits of doing that work. You talk about that symbiotic relationship too, like with the trees and things like that. I try to point out to people to show how far away we got away from this God consciousness or this relationship with nature. Trees give off oxygen, take in our carbon dioxide. Okay, that's a sacred relationship between the two, the human beings and the trees. I remember seeing a couple videos of, by me playing the drums, like the priest going out to get the drum in the forest. They don't just walk up there and cut the tree. They go out there and pray and ask permission to cut the tree. You know what I mean? Because they know it's a relationship, and they sit up here and try to this particular culture sits up here and tries to demonize in a sense of the word that with other indigenous people giving homage to those natural nature type of things, and they're primitive, and what they looking at and worshiping and giving honor and prestige to nature, or a tree, or the water, or the air, and things like that. And so again, we have to see that we are letting the kids run the show. We're letting it, as I've written, we're letting the new kids on the block. That old African proverb, you don't teach the path of a forest to the old gorilla. He's been there. He's done that. He know how to do that. And I can't stress enough that we need to be doing the Sankofa, looking back and seeing what we left, because you see what's going on around you. It's falling down, because it's not built, and it don't have a good foundation. And anything that don't have a good foundation, it's going to fall. And that's why America is facing some of the challenges that it is, because it was built up on ugliness. It was built on taking you away from your God consciousness. It was built on things that is against nature. And we're not going to talk about all the humanistic things that they have done, what I mean, to the people all over the world. But so it's not standing. So those are the things that I like about what she's saying. And then that whole connection about you can't eat it all. You see how God make you have a relationship. You say that social relationship. You said, Dr. Stella, of that social peace that we need in satisfying ourselves as human beings, being able, and it makes you share. By having it makes you share with your neighbor and reach out, and you have a relationship. And that's how we used to be. Like somebody, that's a community about. Like we have, everybody got barbecue and hair salons in the community. Well, you're gonna be competing against each other. Somebody do plums, like Vince said, somebody do this, somebody do that. That's a community, and you all come together and share alike. So those gardening itself would even bring in those type of values of community. It'll make you be a community. So it's a wonderful thing.
All right. So, Dr. Stella, you're going to have an afternoon tea party on the 27th of April at the Pressed Nail Bar. And I believe that is at 4168 Rocky River Drive in Cleveland from 2 to 6 p.m. Tell us what this event is going to be all about.
Well, it's an opportunity to showcase our tea, for Clevelanders to test our teas. We have different teas that I have been able to pull together from our farm. For example, we have the beetroot tea, which is very good for your blood pressure. We have moringa tea. We have different kinds of tea. We have bitter leaf tea, which is very good for diabetes and for detoxifying the liver. We have soursop tea, which is great and awesome for cancer prevention and treatment. Um, there's the lemongrass, which is in powdered form, but you can make tea with them. There's the oregano. It's amazing what nature has really provided for us. There's the neem, which is also a bitter tea. There's the ginger. I mean, we have so many teas, almost 30 different products. So if people don't know what you have, they might not know that the solutions they are seeking for is right under that, just very close within the neighborhood. So it's an opportunity to show Clevelanders some of the options and give them an opportunity to taste the teas, then to ask questions, to learn. They say knowledge is power. So, and then also to provide social interaction, social connection, fun. It's springtime. Let's have some tea. And there's something that I've been working on. It's called tea time. Tea time, me time. Tea time, me time is really about tea as a tool for self-nurturing. You know, how many times have you brewed a cup of tea and then your phone rang, and the next time you come, the tea is completely cold and you even forget it's there?
Mm.
But I want us to learn to make tea time a sacred process. Tea time, me time means, yes, Vince, bring that tea, hold on to it, appreciate the warmth, experience the taste, connecting. You can't rush a hot cup of tea, right? So engage with that tea from the time you brew it to when consume it. Connecting what is the healing properties of and about your tea. Then the other connection that I have about tea is tea time, we time. Tea time, we time. Particularly in these days where people are getting more health conscious, most times the opportunity for social connection is hanging out in the bar, drowning in alcohol and poisons that hurt us rather than, give us much benefit. But we can have social connection through tea. So the afternoon tea party is for us to have an opportunity to have social connection, meet people, connect with people, network, learn what others are. My knowledge is limited. Sometimes I talk like I know it all, but I want to be able to learn from others too. Connect with others. Let people learn, share their experiences. Oh, my grandmother took this that tea. You were talking about dandelion. How many people know the dandelion that they throw away, that they kill, is actually medicinal? That one man's weed is another man's medicine. So it's an opportunity, it's a space for us to learn, to share, to connect, to laugh, and to relax.
Mhm.
Yes.
But
And
let me ask one question. I was thinking about, because again, I get into the esoteric spiritual side of everything that we doing and how it connects to Black folks. I wanted to ask you a question about while you tending your garden and doing the things that you do. People seems to get some good benefits from actually interacting and talking with the plants. Do you do that as well?
Oh, yes. My plants are they are like beans, you know,
Mm,
and they are beans, because nurturing them, talking with them, if they're not doing well, I was like, okay, what do you need?
mm,
I used to tell my team, because in the farm, I have a lot of IT students from our schools of agriculture, they come, and I tell them, you need to be a nurturing person. You need to be a nurturing being, because they're like plants are like babies. They tell you, they talk to you, but are you listening? Are you talking back to them? They will tell you when they are happy. They will tell you when they are sad. They will give you all the signs. So you need to be attentive. So it's a nurturing process. You nurture them and they nurture you.
mm,
So it's a two-way process. It's not just plop the seed and no, you have to interact with it. You have to give it what it needs. You have to talk to it. You have to encourage it. You have to take things that might harm it away from it. You have to trail it and direct it in the way you want it to go. Because in Africa, we use farming in a lot of adage. When they say that, that children are like twigs. You need to guide them where
bend
you
in the
want them
wind,
to
blow,
go.
blow.
You don't
Mm,
just let it run wild, you
mm,
know? So we use all of that. It's okay, no, this is where I want you to go. So you're directing your cucumber or whatever, and then you're taking out the things that might harm it. You're cutting the tips. Why are you cutting the tips? Because you want it to branch out. So sometimes you might need to take away things in order for a child to expand. So there's a lot of analogy between gardening and nurturing plants and nurturing children and nurturing community. There
yeah.
was one time I went to my traditional ruler and we're having a conversation, and he said that a tree can never make a forest. And I was like, oh, that one. So if you have a particular tree and you have so many of that tree, you still don't have a forest. A forest is made where you have different types of trees.
mhm, mhm.
Some are very high, some are middle, some are covering the bottom of the ecosystem. That's community. So again, these are all some of the things that the wisdom. Oh God, I think we need to write a book, Wisdom from Gardening. The wisdom that I've learned in the course of gardening that I'm able to connect with life, being able to talk to your plants, you know, being able, sometimes you cut a papaya tree and it's bleeding, it's giving you this white sap. It's conversation. I remember when it's time to harvest and they are using a blunt knife to cut. You see me scream, you would think they've cut my hands. I said, this is a living thing. Just imagine someone trying to sever your hands with a blunt knife, how painful it is. So if you must cut, use a sharp knife or a sharp prune and cut. Because when the cut is ragged, the plant hurts so much, and then it's not a clean cut. It's traumatized. It might even get infection as a result of the rough cut. Isn't that really analogy to humans too? To be gentle, to use the right tool. So really, gardening or agriculture, whatever name we want to call it, is a deeply spiritual thing. Plants are living things. They feel, they do.
Yeah, I want to reinforce the point that you're making. I've read that plants can actually experience trauma because you neglect them,
Of
and
course.
they they want to interact with you. And then there's a physical aspect of it, because when you breathe out carbon dioxide, and then that plant takes the carbon dioxide that you just expired, and then it converts it into oxygen for you to get a benefit from. So you have a symbiotic relationship. And I think in a lot of ways we take that relationship for granted, but the plants are the very things that deliver life to us. In an ideal world, we would just take in sunshine and get all the nutrients that we need, and then we don't have to eat. But
Well,
because we exist on the level that we do, there's an intermediary, and the intermediary is the plants. Now, some of
right.
us take it to another extreme, and we eat the animals that eat the plants and get what the plants give the animals through a secondhand process. But this morning I watched a video. It was a clip of Dr. Layla Africa, and he was just talking about the idea of food processing. And I can't use the word that he used when he was talking about what the processed product is, but I'll just spell it as SHIT. That's
Mm,
what the processed product is. So when we
mm,
eat processed food, just
mm,
like our bodies are food processors. And the example that he used, I think he used the example of an apple, but you eat the apple, you masticate it, you derive the chemicals, or derive the nutrients from it, and then you expel whatever's left over as waste. Well, when you look at processed food, it's the same thing. They take the raw material into a plant, they grind it up, they extract things, and then you eat that extraction, and then you expel the extraction. So you're going through multiple processes when you could just eat the apple and be done with it. So in
mm,
essence, what we are as beings is we're food processors. But when we go through eating all this processed stuff, we're causing extra work, extra energy. And then the sad thing about it is this processed food that we're consuming many times has very little nutritional value. So we get more from the plant when we take the plant in firsthand versus eating it as it has been recycled and redefined and repackaged. And then of course, you have all of the packaging. You put that stuff in plastic, and then the chemicals from the plastic leach into whatever product it is, and then you deal with that as well. Whereas if you just went out in the backyard and you pulled the apple off the tree, you don't have the wax, you don't have all the chemicals or fertilizers and all of that. So you get it firsthand. Your body says, "Thank you. I
Mm.
appreciate you giving me this good fuel." So it's really an interesting paradigm that we live in. But of course, we're not at a place where we can just live on breath or sunshine. So we got to eat food. We just got to make sure that we're doing the right things. We are going to run out of time on the terrestrial broadcast, but there are a few other things that I want to talk to you about. You mentioned earlier uh, the things that happen when produce is transported, and many times they do things to preserve that fruit or that vegetable. And one of the things that I've heard about is a product that Bill Gates allegedly is responsible for. It's called A-peel, and it's a coating that they put on fruits and vegetables to preserve them, and it's something that actually cannot be washed off. And there are metals in this coating that have an adverse effect on the human physiology. From what I have seen, they are required to label fruits and vegetables that have that on it. But, people will see that. And just like they did with bioengineered foods, they thought, oh, it's bioengineered. That must be a good thing because one of those smart engineers has figured out something that can make that fruit or that vegetable a better version of what it used to be, because you've implanted some type of genetic material in it, and it's going to make it resistant to bugs or other things, or it's going to enable it to grow without blemishes or whatever it's going to do. But the effect of that engineering is detrimental to our life. And then on top of that, they're not doing studies and putting the studies out that tell you what the effect of that bioengineering is on the human body. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on in our food supply. And of course, you may recall that Henry Kissinger said, if you can control the food, you can control the population. So,
Exactly.
here's a thought. Control yourself by controlling the food that you eat, because you create it yourself, and you can do without some of those chemicals. Brother Antonio, anything that you want to share with the listening audience before we migrate over to our YouTube and Facebook platforms?
Yeah, not as much at this particular time. We working on some programs, so look out for the Juneteenth ball, and I'm working on in June trying to bring a few lectures to town as well. So look out for it, and our fundraiser comedy show we might be doing as well. The Carter G. Woodson program, along with the Juneteenth Coalition.
Okay. I just want to take another opportunity to let you know about Dr. Stella's afternoon tea party. It's going to take place at the Pressed Nail Bar at 4168 Rocky River Drive in Cleveland from 2 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, April 27th. We'll attach the information about that event to the description for this YouTube video so that you'll be able to attend that event. It's a special day. It's Sunday, April 27th. It just happens to be my father's solar return anniversary. So it's a special day for me, and hopefully I'll be able to visit with you on that day.
What was
Really
the
quick,
location again, Vince? What was the
it
location?
is Pressed Nail Bar,
Okay.
4168 Rocky River Drive in Cleveland. Um, is there a website that you would like to share with the listeners and the viewers so that they can take advantage of the products that you're offering in terms of the teas and other things that you have, Dr. Stella?
Yeah, just go to sdfarms.store. 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 We have over 30 products there, and once you pick what you want, you can we can just ship it to you. Also, if you want personal consultation, because sometimes especially people dealing with chronic conditions or trying to prevent them, you could reach me via email on siwagwu@gmail.com, and we can have conversation. We can you can share what your concerns are, and I can make some recommendations on what might work with for you based on your circumstances. So you can reach me on siwagwu@gmail.com. siwagwu@gmail.com. And you can also reach me through Facebook and Instagram using the at sdfarmsng.
Okay.
sdfarmsng. That's our Facebook, Instagram handle. And through those, you can also connect to the online store, which is sdfarms.store. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. We'll post all that in the description so that you'll be able to do that. One final reminder, tomorrow evening, it is Envisioning a Black Future. It is an exhibition of Afrofuturistic art by Alcy Clay, and you'll be able to view that at Larchmere Arts. We begin at 6 p.m. It's 12726 Larchmere Boulevard. We had a substitute today. Chris was our engineer today. Thank you, Chris, for standing in for Tone Harley, who does his best to keep us here, right here at AM 1490 WERE. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.
All right. We are now broadcasting live on YouTube. The Journey with Antonio is one channel. Vince Robinson on YouTube is the other channel. And we are also live to the 360 Info Network Facebook page. So you have a lot of different ways that you can check us out. We are with Dr. Stella Iwuagwu. She is a Nigerian sister. She spent much of her life in Nigeria, but she's also been here in the United States in the Cleveland area. She's done some magnificent things. And we did not even get into her life story. You know, she has an amazing story of triumph over adversity. I mean, you know, if she hadn't taken the initiative to preserve her life, she might not even be here based on all the things that she's gone through, but she's here. She's vibrant. She's giving this information to those who have been affected by adversity in their own lives. And she stands up for some, you know, particularly those who have disabilities that have been exploited in certain ways. So we really appreciate your advocacy. We appreciate your knowledge, and we appreciate your passion. You know, you could just treat yourself and, you know, live your life and be okay, you know, but you have taken it upon yourself to have an impact on the lives of others who have been dealing with health adversities, and with your knowledge of herbs and gardening and nursing and all of the other modalities that you have been connected with through your extensive education in health, you're able to provide a benefit to others. For the benefit of the listening audience, if you would, and you don't have to take too much time with it, but can you talk about some of the adversities that you've been able to come through as a result of your knowledge of holistic and herbal medicine?
All right. I got into an accident. I was in an accident, a car accident in 2007 in Nigeria, and I broke my back and I became paraplegic. I also sustained a traumatic brain injury. For many years, I was dealing with severe pains and issues with multiple organs, to the point where I was on I was on about 21 different medicines that I had to take sometimes 3 times a day. It was so overwhelming. I was racked in pain, inflammation. It's just like every organ in my body had a doctor. And then in 2015, the Nigerian health system killed my sister because they left pieces of placenta in her womb. So I resigned my position in Cleveland and decided to go back to Nigeria with a view to see how I can contribute to reforming the health system. But I didn't know that God had a different agenda for me. I've always grown my food wherever I am, and more so in Nigeria, where a lot of the food are grown in chemicals and the standards are poor. So I was very motivated to grow food in my own homestead. And that was how I started growing food and eating from what I'm growing, and then interacting with nature and community. And gradually, things started shifting. I started dropping a lot of the medicine, starting with the pain medicine, the antidepressants. I mean, it's like just things shifted drastically. And I could only attribute that to the connection with nature and to the foods and herbs and spices that I was consuming. And that was when I knew that, I mean, I've always known that food can heal you, but experiencing it personally at that level was life shifting, was transformational. It became my passion. It's all I want to talk about. I have an organization called Center for the Right to Health, where we're always trying to deal with patients whose rights have been violated, dealing with health policy, going to workshops and conferences. I lost interest in all of that. All I wanted to do was garden. All I wanted to do was talk about food, because I just realized that people are so sick. The health system are so overwhelmed. Health infrastructure are broken. So of what use is it for me to every day keep talking about violation? If a doctor has to deal with 100 patients a day, how on earth is he going to be effective? And that is where it dawned on me that we cannot accomplish the right to health without accomplishing the right to healthy food and healthy environment. And I had to integrate all of that into my role, my work in the Center for the Right to Health. That, of course, we've always said that health is integral, health encompasses everything, but we still continue to compartmentalize. But now there's a need for a multidisciplinary approach, a multi-sector approach to health in a way that ensures that we are looking at the agriculture. What is the health of the soil? What if the soil is unhealthy, what you bring out of it is going to be unhealthy. If the environment is unhealthy, then you are going to be unhealthy. If the what you're eating is unhealthy. And then of course, if all of these health challenges are thrown into the health system, it's going to be broken. And the health system is always often about quick fix. So that is really where the journey, where this passion starts. I remember when I was always talking about agriculture and food and herbs and health, somebody said, "Oh, Stella, have you left health and you're now into agriculture?" And then I had to remind them that they're all interconnected. Even when you look at human rights, all human rights are interconnected and interrelated. Look at children. If they don't get good food, how can they thrive in their health? If they don't get good food and their brain is well built, how can they thrive in education? So all of these are interconnected, and using that intersectional approach is really what that the message that I'm working, and I'm building teams, trying to get people from different disciplines to work together towards this common goal, because humanity is threatened, because we have over compartmentalized. The people in agriculture don't know what the people in public health are talking about. The people in public health don't know what is going on in the soil. So everything is interconnected, and that is where God has built the system. That is a systems approach. And this is really what I'm pushing. So sometimes when I'm talking about agriculture, it doesn't mean that I'm still not pushing the issue of human rights. Take example, the work I'm doing with women with disability. We're looking at gender-based violence. And then, okay, what has gender-based violence got to do with agriculture? And in one of the communities we went to, women are not allowed to inherit properties. So a woman that doesn't have access to land, how do you expect her to thrive? Where is she going to grow what she's going to eat? So you look at what are those things, vulnerabilities that exposes women to rape, to abuse, to you can't leave because you don't have the resources to live a violent marriage. You can't even find the money to go and report what has happened to you, or even when you report, you have children, you can't feed them. How are you expected to thrive as a woman, as a mother? So it is important to have a systems approach to look at the intersectional things, intersectional factors that contribute to our vulnerabilities, and not look at it from only one department.
Yes. When you
Yes,
talk about
go ahead.
when you talk about compartmentalization, I think that's really one of the critical issues about the modern medical system, because you have all these experts on one thing, but there's that interconnection that you talk about. But it's like one doctor doesn't know what the other doctor knows. And because they're not connecting with each other, they're not effectively treating the patient, the whole patient. They're only treating part of the patient.
Part of the
Another thing
patient.
that you mentioned is or what I want to bring up is nutrition, because the modern medical doctors really are not getting very much training in nutrition, and there's a direct correlation between the food and the disease. So when somebody is going through a course of treatment, there needs to be a nutritional component so what they're consuming can have a positive benefit of whatever their issue is. They could have a malady because they're not getting enough magnesium or potassium or whatever that vital nutrient is that they're missing that's causing the issue. So if you
Mhm.
don't address that deficiency, then you're not really providing a cure to that person. You're just enabling them to deal with whatever that ailment is in a way that they can manage the pain, they can manage discomfort, and they can still live from day to day, but they're not eliminating the cause of the problem. And I think just based on what I know, that there's a certain intentionality about the corruption of the food supply so that the impact on our health can be what it is, so that that treatment can take place and the profit can be derived from the treatment. It's not about people being healthy, it's about people being able to be treated for whatever diseases that are caused by the foods that they feed us. And by the way, they're intentionally impacting the quality of the soil so that it doesn't have the nutrients for the foods that are grown in them. And I was wondering, as we were having this conversation, if perhaps you might be aware of some things that can be done to restore the integrity of the soil.
Yes. The integrity of the soil starts from understanding that the soil is a living thing. The same way we nurture the plant, we need to nurture the soil. There is something we produce called lactic acid bacillus. If you don't have, a plethora of living, diversity of living organisms within your soil, its ability to break down the organic matters in the soil is limited. And it's by breaking down those organic matters that it provides nutrients to your plant roots. So if your soil is not healthy, your plant is not going to get the best, outcome. So what are some of those things you can do to improve the health of your soil? Is one, try not to put chemicals in your soil. Two, well, of course, when by chemical, harmful chemical. Two, have compost as much as you can. Because some of these chemicals we put in our soil, it doesn't only kill the bad ones or the weed or the pests. Sometimes it's non-discriminating. So as much as possible, let's use natural methods of conservation. There's what we call regenerative agriculture. We have to have systems that can enable us compost, mulching with natural products, leaves and debris, wood chips. Those are all the things you can put in your soil. You want a soil that is rich that has a lot of worms, that you can open it, you can see ants and critters crawling in it. That is a show of a healthy soil. You bring a soil that is dead and there's no organism inside it, then what is going to break down? Then that is when you now have the need to bring in some chemical to put in the soil to enrich it. Nature can do this for us if we work with nature.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Some people say, oh, they don't want to deal with fruits because it brings creatures, by the time you rake through your whatever debris or food or whatever rake it open, dig a ditch and rake everything into it and cover it. Right? Just open the ground a few, maybe feet deep or 4 inches deep. Just open it and cover it. Then flies can't get to it, nothing can get to it. But underneath, so much activities are happening. Because those creatures and organisms they need to be fed. So if your soil is sterile and devoid of all this food for those microorganisms, then your soil is not going to be healthy. So you want a soil that is rich and vibrant, and that is how they can supply what your food needs. And then another thing that is promoting the a lot of pests is mono agriculture. You have from miles and miles is corn, just one product. Then of course, what is going to happen is there's no diversity. There's no biodiversity. So mono agriculture, where we plant soybeans, miles and miles and miles, and there might be room for that. But for our homestead gardening and our small farming practices, practicing organic agriculture, using regenerative agriculture, treating with your soil, being very intentional in the fall, the leaves that you see as nuisance. Sometimes we'll rake it all up and we'll give it to the city to throw away. We don't want any dirt. We want, it is our desire We are the ones that created the demand for the engineering and the chemicals because we want to live this sterile, perfect life. That is not how nature operates. Nature is messy, and we have to learn how to coexist within that mess as part of it. Because we wanted perfect fruits, we didn't want fruits with blemish. Then they gave us the chemicals to give you the blemishless fruits and vegetables, you know. So we have to be able to gather all the leaves and stuff, create composting for them, put them under the soil, cover it, or get a tap and cover it and turn it from time to time. By the spring, you have amazing, rich, healthy soil that is rich with microorganisms that also creates biodiversity. So it really requires intentional approach to this. So it's really our choice. If we want the perfect fruit with no blemish, then we're going to have to live with the chemicals.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I just one thing I had, and people, we got to take into account that, because of Agent Orange of number 47, they are good in peeling back a lot of the corporate regulations that's required, far as environment, food, and things of that nature. So, they're cutting regulations to where, the corporations, it's all about making dollars and cents. So I'm just saying this for us to really put this in our minds to where it get to the point that we're going to have to, resort back to, taking care of more of our own stuff and not trusting the system. We should have never trusted the system in actuality. But by them cutting regulations, they may not have to put certain notices on some of the food and things and the processing, and they're going to compromise the ingredients or how they do things or how they filter the smokestacks or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's going to be detrimental to us. So I say this as far as African Americans is concerned, let's be smart. Let's
Be
be smart.
vigilant. We
Be- be-
just have to be vigilant. We
Yeah,
just have to be
yeah.
vigilant. We
Hmm.
need to take autonomy back, and we can't just continue to be in the space of the blame game,
Hmm.
looking for blame. We need to take leadership and do the things for ourselves and grow our food and whatever we can do, and then pay attention, be literate, listen.
Hmm.
And everything doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory. There are some good part of regulation. There are some that are also detrimental. We need to pay attention, and we need to be able to protest when the need is there. We need to be able to share our stories and document what is happening in our environment. Because if you see a lot of the industries that pollute, that release a lot of pollutants in the air and in the environment, in the soil, are often located where people who are relatively poor live in, and most of them are predominantly African American. So it is these kinds of activism, these kinds of vigilance that we need now more than ever.
Yeah.
The things we have taken for granted, the things we have taken for granted, the ability to vote, the ability to have a right over your own body, the ability. So a lot of the things that people sweated and protested and died for, that we took it taken for granted, is being rolled back. And this is the time to wake up, and let's get back to building community, to educating ourselves, to activism. It just can't be fun and dance all the time. We need to get our young people involved to understand what is happening in our politics, in our civic life, and get them to begin to participate. Information, knowledge, and we can use every opportunity we get to particularly our young people, we need
Right.
to be able to hand the baton to them. They need to
Right.
understand what is at stake. They need to understand that the music, the fun, and all the things they take for granted might not always be there. They need to understand the threat and the role that they can play in ensuring that the next generation have something to live for. So it's really activism is,
Hmm.
when we do history, we talk about the Underground Railroad, we talk about Juneteenth and all that. Let's also make connection to it, to what is happening in today, the reversal of history, the people picking and choosing what can be taught. DEI is now a dirty word. So it is important we know that what we have now cannot be taken for granted, that there is a threat, and what are the strategies for dealing with those? What lessons can we learn from history?
Yes. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we got to. I guess that's why I say just be smart, because we know that this system is based on capitalism and money. And I lived on a farm before as well. And like if you eating chicken, it takes a long time for a chicken to be ready to be eating. So we have to be smart enough to know that the system is about dollars and cents, and they're going to compromise our food. They're going to compromise our food because it's about dollars and cents. You know what I mean? So the red dye that they put in the meat to make it look fresh and all those things like that, then to enhance the growing of some of these vegetables and stuff. So we got to be smart enough to know that is taking place. So we have to take it on ourselves to at least to do what we can to eliminate or to circumvent some of the things that the system is doing, because you can't put all your trust into the system far as this food, because they'll compromise a quality for a dollar and a cents. We have to
That
understand.
that is
Yeah.
absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
I
Hmm.
want to also mention you talked about history, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it was something like 2 million acres of land that black farmers once had in this country. And they reduced that 12 million to 2 million acres. One of the most important things that you can have is land, because land gives you an ability to sustain yourself. So they were very intentional about taking those things away from us. We have conversations about Agent Orange and what he's doing to change the landscape of this country. I was reminded that we had a period in the history of this country called Reconstruction. After slavery supposedly ended, then things began to open up for us. Brothers were able to get into positions of political power and influence. We were beginning to acquire land, farm on that land, and enjoy a certain level of success that we couldn't enjoy because we were enslaved. And so they saw how we were beginning to thrive, and they said, "Oh, hold up, wait a minute. We can't let y'all do this." And then you had full scale Jim Crow, segregation, all the things that they did to impair and impede our progress. So, what we're going through now is something that we've been through before. But I think it also highlights the idea of what you're talking about, Dr. Stella, and that is taking matters into our own hands. We can react to all the things that they are doing or saying they want to do or implementing, cutting back on DE&I, cutting back on funding for certain kinds of things. But then there's also what we can do. You go to the store, you buy a piece of fruit, the fruit has a seed in it. You can take that seed and plant it. You can grow something, and then you can create. We keep coming back to this idea of sustainability, but those are the things that we have to do. I mean, we talk about, for instance, water, something as plain and simple as water. And we got different choices. You can go into your kitchen, turn on the faucet, and water's coming out the faucet. You can have the knowledge that there are chemicals in this water, and you can get something that will filter chemicals out, or you can just drink the water. You have a choice. We're not completely blameless in this. There are certain things that we can do, just different things, and I'm just going to throw out a few things just to contribute to the conversation. We have Wi-Fi routers and modems in our homes that we leave on 24/7, 365. And we're exposed to the radiation that comes from those devices. Now, you could do something real simple to affect your environment, your atmosphere. You could turn that unit off. You sleeping. You ain't on a line at 4 o'clock in the morning because your eyes are closed and you're astrally traveling and you ain't got nothing to do with the address that you live. This is a simple thing that you can do. You can get that water that comes through that faucet in your kitchen and use reverse osmosis to remove the chemicals from it. It'll be a better version of the water that they're giving you. Or you could just say, okay. Or you can go to the store and pay $2 a gallon for some water. You can do what Dr. Trinace Talbert has suggested and get some shungite. Get the shungite, purify your water, have a better quality of water. You can get a pitcher, and based on the experiment that the Japanese doctor did, you could put love on that glass beaker that your water is in, and you can energize that water. Just different things that we can sit back and complain about all the things that they're doing to kill us, or we can do things to be proactive and not reactive and have a better quality of life because we are intentional. But what we do is we just sit back and we take whatever they give us. I live in Glenville. Dr. Stella, you live over there near Ohio City. I think you said like near West 25th or whatever, so you live in these different parts of the city, and many of these parts of the city are devoid of any stores that have food with nutritional value. I can walk out of my house and go to the East Side Market. It's like a 2-minute walk for me. I can walk in that store, and as I'm walking into the store, I'm looking at an end of an aisle that's got 5-pound bags of Domino sugar on it. I know that sugar in that package is a drug. I know that it's a refined product. I know that it's going to cause my vitamin C not to work properly. It's going to impact my white blood cells and not let them function the way they should. This is knowledge that I'm equipped with. But most people who walk in that store, they see the 5-pound bags of sugar and they say, "Oh, well, let me find the Kool-Aid, and I'm gonna put 2 cups of sugar in that, and it's gonna be some sweet red stuff, and it's gonna taste good going down, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to ignore the damage that it's going to do to my body." And most of the stuff that they have in the East Side Market, the new East Side Market, is stuff that I would not venture to bring into my house because I know the dangers of it. And this is the dilemma that many of us who live in communities like this face. So, again, we live in these places where we don't have access to good food. So it becomes incumbent upon us to create sources. And that's when our knowledge of gardening comes into play, because we can grow those gardens. You can go online and get a vertical garden and grow 5, 6, 7 different things with that vertical garden. And it's, as we said earlier in the broadcast, it's going to be better for you because you're growing it yourself. And it doesn't go through all the things that have to happen in order for it to show up at that store and get marked up. Dr. Stella, I can remember when you could go to the store and get 20 ears of corn for $1. 20 ears of corn. Now, there's
Not
some who would
anymore.
say corn ain't good for you, so you should leave it alone. But nonetheless, you could get 20 ears of corn for $1. Now, you might get 5 ears of corn for $1. You might get 3 ears of corn for $1. You go to Whole Foods to buy 1 bell pepper, and that 1 bell pepper is going to cost you $3 for 1 pepper. But you could grow some bell peppers at your house, and then you can save the seeds and grow some more bell peppers, and you have an endless supply of bell peppers. So the choice is yours.
Yeah.
You can,
Well, I got a question though, Vince and
yeah.
Doc. What do y'all think? Because when you was talking about some of that stuff and going into the East Side Market, education is an issue. They may not know, may not understand and things. But a thought came to my mind: if they did know, will they still make good or bad choices? Have we gotten to the point mentally that we would still make a bad choice even when given the knowledge? Because creatures of habit, you know how we do. They're gonna still get the the shredded wheat with the sugar coating on it, even though they know that it's bad for them and things. That's the question. Have how much education, how much we got to do, even if we had classes on this stuff and growing herbs, and what I want to do is have a class on understanding I think I mentioned it before, the organs of the body and what the organs need to order to work optimally. You know what I mean? If we taught our children that, I would hope maybe at an early age they would understand. But with these adults, what are your thoughts on that? You think we still be in this battle?
I
Well,
just want to say real quick.
knowledge is not enough, but knowledge is a starting point.
The start
Yeah.
point. Okay.
It's a starting point.
Okay.
Not just knowledge of, sugar is not good for you, but deeper understanding of how it actually happens, demonstrations. Then, what is the alternative? Are you offering them?
I see.
Because they are creatures of habit. What are those alternatives? There are plants like stevia and all that because people like their sweet. You can't
Mhm.
just cut off, just like someone who is an addict. You can't just cut off or expect them to cut off. So how about
Okay.
gradual reduction? And then what are the alternatives? And this is one of the area why I'm so passionate about teas. People
Mhm.
want something to drink, you know. So if you want something nice and chilled, the tea doesn't have to be hot. It can be iced tea. What are the alternative things you can put in it? You can put date in it. Date is a wholesome sweetener, is a fruit. You can put stevia. What are those alternatives? Maybe if you used to use 2 tablespoons of sugar, maybe you can start with 1 tablespoon. So what are those alternatives? Is what we call self-efficacy. Give them little goals. Let them learn how to set goals and be able to accomplish those goals. Do they really believe that the sugar is causing disease? Is one thing to have the knowledge, is another thing to internalize it. Have they seen people? The more they have seen people who have been harmed by sugar, who can share their story. It's just like tobacco. Even after they put the
Yeah.
picture of the lungs. No, I'm a health educator, and that is one of the area where we look at that. There are different theories and models we use because sometimes, and then you want someone to use the alternative. Can they afford it?
Mhm.
you know and then if they can, then how do you now begin to look at the cost benefit analysis? They need to be able to do the cost benefit analysis. Somebody might tell you they might not afford a more expensive sweetener, but then they are getting their nails done, they're getting their hair done, they're getting the most expensive Jordans. So it's really about prioritization. What is it that the Jordan, and you can sit on the side and think, oh, why are you prioritizing Jordan over getting a healthy food? But then that Jordan help boost their self-esteem. So we need to look at it holistically. When I came newly to this country, I was very judgmental, honestly, because I go to I was teaching, I'll see a lot of these white kids. They come in their simple jeans and t-shirt and sneakers, super focused, trying to get things done. And then our people, we're wearing high heels and the no whole 9 yards and all the blinks. You know,
Mhm.
you see, when so much has been taken from you, you want to show that there's something that is still there. And you
Mhm.
can't beat that. So there's a lot of empathy that we need to have. There's a lot of understanding. There's a lot of building up from within. A lot of building up from within. I am blessed and lucky. I was raised by two parents that are relatively poor, but I didn't even know we were poor at the time I was growing up because we were taking in orphans and poor people's children into our home. So my self-confidence comes from within. So we need to build the confidence that comes from within. When people know what are the value, what is important. I remember when my mother was raising us, she tell us, "Ihe ọma ada agwụ agwụ," meaning good things don't finish.
Mhm.
That as you're taking that designer clothes off the shelf, they're producing a better one, a newer one. Can you really keep up? So it's all about peer pressure. So there's a lot of work for our communities to do.
Mhm.
How do we build self-confidence that comes from within? How do we build self-esteem when you've been knocked down for so long and you feel like the only thing that is important is showing that I got it out?
Mhm. Mhm.
Meanwhile, there's a lot of emptiness. How do we
Mhm.
feel the empty void? There's a lot of therapy that needs to happen.
Yes.
Our homes are broken down, and There's so much that is wrong, but we want to get that best designer vehicle. We want to get that best designer. What is it? So it's not enough to criticize it. It's important to understand it and see what is that thing, what is the value, what role is that, and how do you feel it? There's a void, and we need to begin to fill the void so that they can actually begin to build wealth. There's
Yes.
so much money that comes in. Where are we prioritizing? What are we prioritizing? We want the big screen TV, we want the fancy things, then we're not valuing the health. It's about valuing. What do we value? And the sad thing is, the odd thing is, the consequences does not manifest immediately. It's seriously delayed. If you're not wearing that designer shoe, your homie might abuse you, and they might laugh at you. The shame is immediate, but the consequences of the sugar and the bad nutrition and all that takes a long time to happen, and sometimes happen in private spaces,
So
often unshared. So it's important that we understand the many dynamics that come into play when people make decisions.
So I just want to interject and answer the question that you asked, Brother Antonio. The answer is they know, but they know also that they can take a pill. So they'll use that excuse, everything in moderation, even though they know that it's bad for them. But if I just do a little bit, it's not going to hurt me. Plus, I can take the pill and I'll be okay. So, again, I'll go to the McDonald's example. McDonald's French fries have 17 or 18 different ingredients. Now, anybody who has ever made French fries for themselves, they know that all you need is some potatoes, some oil, unless you do the air fryer thing. And then you're going to put at least some salt on the French fries, because you're not going to eat them without something on them, because, the salt do what the salt do, But if you do your homework, and, we live in an age of information, so you can go on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook any day of the week and see something about McDonald's French fries having 17 ingredients, and you can watch it. And he's going to tell you it's genetically modified potato. They put this chemical, that chemical, that chemical, that chemical. They tell you everything that's in it. And you say, oh, but damn, them fries taste good. So you go to McDonald's.
That is the power. That is the power of immediate gratification. It's
Immediate
not just about the
gratification.
pill. Pleasure. We need to also look at the pleasure concept. They're getting that the immediacy. And these things are also addictive. Change takes, we really need to be patient with people and really get to the root, be able to counsel and support and encourage and mentor. It takes time. It's not a magic bullet. And I'm
Yeah.
sure if you look in your own life, in some of the decisions you had growing up at the time when you were not this enlightened, how many people are even going to the TikTok and all that? When you put a couple of young people, and then who wants to listen to all the detailed, sometimes boring, fear motivated message of this is going to kill you? This, you know why I know this? We did a lot of work around HIV and AIDS. Why do people need to know what they know? Even sometimes we expert health educators and all that, and we still engage in unsafe sex. Pleasure, immediacy. The sickness comes later. Even at the time when there was no pill, when they will show you picture of people that are dying and cachetic and ugly, it still didn't stop us. Look at addiction. I remember one day I was talking to my son and begging him, he said, Mommy, look at that person. You see, does that person look good? I like looking good, right? I said, yeah. I said, but then sometimes it's not a conscious decision. It starts with one pill. So there is a lot. I used to be very judgmental. I used to feel that people should know and they should take action. But it's really, I've learned that there is a lot that goes into the equation that moves people from knowledge to action, and consistent action. Because the person that is knowledgeable may have taken action, sometimes they can regress. that smell of the McDonald's, you're just driving past and that hits you. So, oh, let me just get it back. It's a reality. We need to understand it. There's a lot that we need to understand in terms of moving people from where they are to taking positive decisions and actions and maintaining it. There's some theories of change that we have used, and it's that understanding that makes you be patient. That people sometimes who know might what do they call it? Not always take consistently positive actions or decisions for themselves. There's the pleasure. There's the pleasure. The
Mm,
pleasure. In some shops, they will spray something in the air that you waft it, you smell it. It
mm,
actually drives you towards making some of those bad decisions.
mm,
So they are using human mind, the theories of how we make decisions. Even
mm,
just playing good music in a shop will drive you towards pleasure. It's still the pleasure
mm,
syndrome. And you're going to be making all the pleasurable decisions.
mm,
When you think about, oh, then do I have the time? You have a single mother who try to navigate two jobs, try to deal with three, four kids. Do they have
mm,
the time to really sit and make whole food and all that and still relax and still sleep and get to the next job? So
mm,
sometimes just grabbing that might just be the survival
mm,
choice or decision at that time.
mm,
So we cannot use one stroke to
mm,
paint everyone. It's never a single narrative. There are multiple stories and multiple narratives, and we must just keep working patiently with people and keep guiding them in the path where it will be most, where they get the best
beneficial
outcome
thing.
for themselves.
Here's one thing I just want to add to the conversation. In the middle of all this evil around us, when we talk about food and the trash that you get from just the vibration of the energy around you, the bad stuff that is for you mentally, spiritually, and things of that nature. We're in a cesspool of bad things. But if we understood, our environment and how things work and how God work and how the system in our body work, I think some of the problems that we have is putting bad on top of bad, you know, and you're not giving your body any kind of reprieve in order to do what it do, because this magnificent machine that we have, even in spite of all the things that are around us that we do, the body would try to survive and heal itself if given the chance, if given the proper tools and things like that. But the problem, I think, if we was to educate ourselves and trying to counteract some of those impulses that causes us to do something, eat something bad, or those the McDonald's French fries. If we was doing some things to counteract some of those evils, we could still acquire a healthy life and some sort of, or some type of longevity, or dodge or sidestep some of the illnesses that is plaguing us at this particular time, because the body is trying to heal. But I think the problem that we're all faced with is not giving ourselves, our body, a break, because we putting bad on top of bad on top of bad on top of bad, and that's causing and not giving the body a chance to heal itself. I do sometimes a little being a comedian, a little joke, and when I first started, I did a joke. And I hope this, I'm trying to see if I can put it in a way so it don't sound too bad. Or I could do it like this: if you eating 3 meals a day and only eliminating once, what are you doing? You see, you banking 2 meals a day. You know what I mean? And you constant that product. I mean, you constantly going through that process of eating and only eliminating once, eating 2 meals the next day. You backing up that system. So I'm saying you don't give the body a chance to expectorate or to get that type of stuff out your system so it can do what it do. And all those things, you really are just compiling this badness on top, and not getting enough sleep so the body can do what it do, not sleeping at the right time and all those things, not eating fasting at all. At least go to 6 o'clock in the evening that don't eat, and giving your body a chance to do what it's do. So I just want to put that out there, even in light of all this craziness. we could still do better just by, putting some good things in and doing some type of rituals to help the body do what it do.
There
Yeah,
was
you're
an
absolutely
album.
right. It means giving people choices, giving people options, So that's
Yeah.
really very important.
There was an album by our good friends Parliament Funkadelic back in the day, and the title of the album was Funkadelic versus the Placebo Syndrome.
Okay, I remember. Yeah.
I think what we're dealing with is a mass psychosis. And this psychosis has put people in a situation where they will go against their natural instinct and do something that is detrimental with full knowledge. And we talked about cigarette smoking earlier today. There's nothing good about cigarettes. Not one thing. And some people would say, well, it calms my nerves. No, it doesn't calm your nerves. It causes the exact opposite. But you have this psychological idea that somehow it's giving you a benefit. And this is the absurdity of it all. That you live in a country that will put a label on a package that essentially says this will kill you. That's it. That's what it says. It says it will kill you. And not only can
Oh,
you buy it, but they will subsidize the farmers that are growing this thing that will kill you. This is the country that we live in. So there has to be some type of psychosis in play here. It goes back to something that happened 4 years ago, and we talked about the psychosis. And I don't want to say too much because the censors are listening and they're watching and they're real sensitive about us telling the truth about what happened. But there was a mass psychosis because you had one group of people who were in the science industry and they were saying, hey, this does this, and this. And then you had the other part of this scientific equation that says, oh no, it does this, it will protect you, it will prevent this, blah, blah, blah. And then a few years went by, and all the things that those one group of scientists said, it will do this, and this, it came out to be true. And after all of that, there are still people who say, but I want some of that. It just defies logic. Somebody told you, just like with the cigarettes, it will kill you, but then you come back and say, well, I want some more of that because you drank the Kool-Aid that they put the 2 cups of Domino sugar in, and it's working well. Dr. Stella, I want to amplify something that you brought up early in our broadcast, and the time got past us, and I couldn't really jump in, but it was about the tea. I went to Japan back in 1987, and they had these elaborate ceremonies involving tea. So part of the ritual was that you have the cup in your hand, right? And you're turning the cup around, you're admiring the beauty of the cup. You're holding it in your hand, and and basically you're giving some type of reverence to what you're about to do. So it's a very, very significant activity. And then you go to the other side of the world. You go to Great Britain, go to England, and they have similar scenarios. It's called high tea. So you got your pearls on, you got your lace on, you got your Sunday best on or whatever. And here you are enjoying this cup of tea. So I just wanted to bring us back to that whole idea of the importance of that. And then to take it to the next level, you're not drinking Lipton's black tea with the caffeine in it, and the things that may not be good for you. You've taken it to another level where you've got teas that have these medicinal properties that can counteract some of the crazy stuff that you've done to yourself because you're drinking the right tea. So it may sound like it's just, well, let's come sip some tea, but it's way more than that. And I really like what you said about the ritualization of that, because every day you take that time to enjoy that tea. Now, it could be at 9 p.m. when your stomach is growling, and because you have this consumer oriented mentality, you think, I'm hungry, I need to eat something. But instead, you go to the cabinet, you reach in, grab the box that has a chamomile tea in it, you make yourself a cup of tea, you drink it, and then you forget about being hungry, and you're able to execute that fast that you should be on between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. the next day, or 12 noon the next day, so that you have effectively fasted for those 16 hours that will give you the benefit. This
Exactly.
consumer oriented society that we live in has us with this idea that the more we take in, the better we are, because we're eating for pleasure. We're eating because it tastes so good. We're eating those things that have been engineered to such a degree that you will be challenged. The advertiser will tell you, they'll dare you. They say, I bet you can't eat just one. So 15 minutes later, you done ate the whole bag, and the bag said 10 servings. So you multiply that, that serving size.
Pleasure. The
You know,
pleasure syndrome.
it's the placebo syndrome. I'm telling you, George
Mhm.
Clinton
The
was on
marketers,
to something.
the marketers, they understand that very well,
For
and they
sure.
use it. So we need to also understand that we that are intervening, that are trying to get people to turn to positive decision making and positive behavior, we need to understand those psychology and not just think that knowledge is enough. You know? How do we deal with that pleasure syndrome? Why don't you get a nice porcelain cup of tea so that my tea, oh Lord, tea, 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 tea.
Okay, it looks like she froze up on us. I'm going to bring up on the screen this event that she's doing, and we'll see what we can do to amplify that. If you weren't able to see it, and I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Hopefully, you all are still with us right
Yeah,
now.
I'm still here. Just the
You're
screen is
still
black.
here.
That's all. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're in the shadow of the Mercury retrograde, brother Lynn.
Mm.
So Mercury went direct, I think, a couple of days ago, but we still experience these complications from time to time. But it's going to happen on the 27th of April, and it could be quite an educational experience for you if you choose to make that trip. She's having what she's calling Dr. Stella's afternoon tea party, where she's inviting you to enjoy a relaxing afternoon with aromatic teas, light snacks, and enlightening conversations and natural healing. It's going to be at the Pressed Nail Bar, and that's at 4168 Rocky River Drive in Cleveland, Sunday, April 27th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And if you want to RSVP, you can call or text 216-904-4260. You can also email Iwuagwu at gmail.com. And I will make sure that I post the link to her website and give you all the contact information in the description to this video. Brother Lynn, it looks like we have lost Dr. Iwuagwu,
Mm.
but we are definitely appreciative of the time that she spent with us today. We have kind of a rotating cadre of subject matter experts. So I think a couple weeks ago we had the veganette, Miss Tanya Thompson, on. We will look forward to connecting with her. We will have Dr. Iwuagwu back, and then we can get into some of the other things that she has knowledge of. Her father succumbed to prostate cancer,
Okay. Okay.
So I
Mm,
think that was really her motivation
mhm.
for, wanting to address that issue, and it is definitely something that as elder men in our community we must be apprised of, so that we can push back on the things that happen when we don't give attention to those aspects of our bodies functioning. So we'll have her back on to talk about that specifically, and also to provide some insight on different remedies that we can use to address certain ailments that we have. We weren't able to get to it, but I had actually planned to ask her about what some of the most common ailments are, and what kinds of things can be done to address those ailments, because we want to give people information that is useful and beneficial to them, as opposed to just reviewing the gloom and doom that's going on in our
Right.
society.
Right.
And,
Mhm.
and I'll say this in parting: things are not completely as they appear to be. We're at a really pivotal point in the evolution of this planet on a cosmic level. And there is conversation right now about an ascension that's going to take place within the next year, within this year going into 2026. It's going to be a certain level of consciousness that's going to counteract all of the chaos and confusion that's going on. One of the things that's stated about this paradigm shift is that there will be many that don't make it. There will be many that don't take this path to ascension. But those of us who have a certain level of consciousness, what it's going to do is it's going to take us to the next level. So I would just implore folks to perhaps look into some of these ideas and these concepts, because when you begin to understand these things, then it kind of liberates you from the futility that we're experiencing now as we react to all the things that are happening in our society, in this country, and really on a global basis. Because the discomfort that we're going through in this country, relative to inflation and the economy and all those other kinds of things, they're happening in other countries around the world too. The political instability and in the leadership, they're experiencing those things too. They have leaders that are just as inflammatory as the one that we have in this country. And we can look at all these things and just have a certain sense of hopelessness and futility, because we think that these are things that are beyond our control. And this is what the so-called powers that be, this is the place that they want us to be. They want us to exist in this level of fear, stress, and anxiety that really prevents us from understanding and accepting the power that we have within ourselves to control our circumstances. We talked about it a little bit in the show when we were talking about, we have the ability to make different choices, and we do. And that's one of the most important things that we have as beings on this planet. We have the ability to make those choices. There are some organisms that exist that don't have that choice. They don't have free will. They're wired to do what they do, and they do what they do instinctively, but they don't have the same level of discretion that we have as beings, and having an ability to control our destinies. It's not as futile as it seems.
Mm.
So the implication is, do what you can to make the best possible choices in everything that you do, and you will see change in your life. One of the things that really resonates with me, Brother Lynn, is just the dichotomy of living in a state of lack and living in a state of abundance. And if you wire your brain to think that you live in a state of lack, then you will continue to exist in a state of lack. But if you have, on the other hand, an idea that this is a universe of abundance, and that all our needs can be met, and you see it play out in your life, because it happens day after day after day, you see how the universe works on your behalf and in your favor. When you embrace that idea and you embrace that mentality, then those positive things will begin to manifest. But if you keep saying, I'm tired, I'm sick, I'm hungry, I'm poor, and all those things, then those things, they maintain a reality because that's what you're telling yourself it's supposed to be. So, the war that's being fought, yeah, they dropping bombs in Ukraine and, in the Middle East and all of that stuff. They're doing all that. But the real war is the war that's taking place in our minds. And when we get to a point where we realize that we can change our minds, we can change our reality, then we don't have to be stuck in fear. So with that,
That's pretty much, yeah, and that's pretty much what in Dr. Carter, not Carter, Dr. Amos Wilson say. Change your consciousness, change your reality. And a lot of times with me that I have to even, check myself on, he goes further to say in talking about quit worrying about trying to change the man and the system sometime all the time. You said change the way you are, and the system has to change automatically because you change. And he also goes on to say about change the things that you put value in, and the man loses his power over you because you value in this thing, and you tripping on this, and that's what you want, and you seeking this and seeking that. If you change that value system, those things don't hold on to you no more. You don't have the power over you no more. So the man is comfortable right now for what he see as the masses of the people, because the masses just go along to get along, and they become complacent in their ways, and they don't seek out. And then we as black people, we tend to sit back and let everybody else institutionalize everything and build institutions, and we just be consuming on that instead of creating our own. Say, create your own future. Don't wait for the future. Create your future.
right there it is. It really is the embodiment of the concept of Sankofa. And I'm gonna share with you a video that I received from Brother Manu.
Mm,
He did a presentation at his college, and within it, he had a segment where he talked about the Sankofa bird, and he showed the version of it that shows the bird looking back, but also it shows the golden egg under the
yes, sir.
Sankofa bird's beak, and he gave us a really good explanation about that. But he also, in this presentation, talked about Dr. Carter G. Woodson's affinity to Africa. He talked about the books that he wrote, particularly towards the end of his life, that dealt specifically with Africa. And he just drove home the point that, Carter G. Woodson wasn't just about the history of Black America. He was about the history of Africans on the planet. And so that's part of his idea about, African Heritage Month versus Black History Month, because Black History Month really kind of disconnects us from Africa when we talk historically. But, as a people, we've been around for more than 400 years, and we have to relate to the totality of our history and not just a small sliver of it. So
For
with
sure.
that, yeah, great conversation today, brother, as always. And just personally, I'm going to thank you for creating this platform.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we've come a
Mm,
long way, brother Lynn.
mhm. Oh yeah.
We've come
Oh
come a
yeah.
long way, and guests that come on this show from time to time talk about the importance of what we're doing, and it can't really be overstated. You don't turn on other stations in this community and hear and witness the type of content that we have on the show. I'm telling you, brother, I've seen and listened to some broadcasts in different situations, and
Mhm.
a lot of times it's just people on the air arguing with each other. You have all these voices, there's no continuity, and then where's the news that you can use to change your life? We get on here and we complain about 47 and all the things that are happening, but what do we do with all of that? It's cool to be able to get stuff off your chest, but we have to be solution oriented folks, so that we're not just accepting the reality that some would have us have or live, that we take an active role in shaping our reality and changing things. And I think that's really one of the important things about having this platform, that we can let folks know, yeah, you see that going on, but this is going on too. It's just like what we say about Ibrahim Traore. Mainstream media is not bringing that information to you. So you would have no way of knowing that somebody is over on the other side of the world doing things that are empowering not only his country, but the surrounding countries. We talk about in terms of the Sahel, and you and brother Sekou last week really went into depth about that. Again, that is the benefit of being able to bring these conversations to a platform like this, so at least people have some exposure to it. I guarantee you, brother, that I will venture to say that, and I'm just being conservative, okay? 50% of the people have never heard of the Sahel. They don't know what ECOWAS is. They barely understand that Africa is a continent of 54 different countries, and even a greater number of nations within those countries. They don't know. They look at each other every day, brother, and they see Igbo, they see Iwe, they say Europe, they say Yoruba, they see Ashanti, they see Akan, they see all these things, but they don't even know what they are. We're such a beautiful and diverse people. We're not monolithic, and we can't even appreciate the diversity that we have within our peoplehood.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've been there, I've been there. We've had the opportunity to see the richness of a situation where everywhere you look, you see somebody that looks like you. you know, and they can't tell the difference until we open our mouths. We're really one big family, but they've kept this division amongst us and kept us fighting with each other so effectively, or fighting to be like someone that we're not, who at the same time is doing everything that they can to be like us.
Ain't that a crazy circle right there, man? That's a crazy circle right there.
It's crazy. I mean, you can go to China and see a Chinese brother breakdancing. Go to Japan, see the same thing. Go to Saudi Arabia, see the same thing. Go to Poland, see the same thing. We are the models for culture on this planet, and we've been that way for a long time. A
More
long time.
crossover influence.
Yeah.
More crossover influence than anybody on the planet. That's why, like I say, I encourage, by you being here, like I say, new kids on the block, you don't teach the path of a forest to ogre. You've been here. You've done it. You have some solutions to some of these things. That's why I say our ancestors are calling out. When you gonna try me? When you gonna try me? We know some of the answers to some of the issues that you're going on, and that's why I talk about Africa so much. That's why I try to relate everything going back to the home, because look at all the ancient knowledge and information, and I don't quote it about 3 or 4 proverbs of wisdom that they talk about, and how to deal with life and interchange with life, the purpose of life, nature, God, and all that. This was how people lived back in the day, and it's a lot of information in there that we can get.
It looks like Dr. Stella has been with us for a few, and I did not see her window pop up on the screen, so my apologies.
It's okay.
We were in the process of wrapping up the show, and we went off on a few other tangents, but again, I made sure that I gave the information about the event that you're doing on the 27th of April, and I'll put that in the description for this video. As we wind things down, is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we conclude the broadcast?
Yeah, just to appreciate the opportunity to share with all of you and to encourage people to do their best, take little steps. Rome wasn't built in a day. We don't be despondent. There's so many challenges, but just do what is within your sphere of influence. Do is what you can, one step at a time, one day at a time. Start with little changes, because we've been indoctrinated to eat poorly and make bad decisions, but it doesn't have to remain like that. We don't have to have a sense of hopelessness, because sometimes when we feel like there's nothing we can do, we end up not doing anything. But just take little tiny steps. It's amazing. And know that the body can heal itself if you give it an opportunity. And if you want to invite me to come and talk to your church, to your small group, to the men's group, this conversation needs to be an ongoing process. I am available. And you can reach me by email, seiwagwu@gmail.com. If you can put that in the line so that people can know how to reach me, I'll be available. And if you can
Yeah.
also support us by going to our online store and purchasing our products, that's the way we can sustain what we're doing. But my biggest joy is that people are listening and people are willing to take those steps. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we have a few folks who are witnessing our broadcast on YouTube and Facebook right now. I would like to request respectfully that subscribe to our channels. I don't know where you are, Lynn. I'm up to 930 subscribers, so I'm 70 away from the magic number of 1,000. So if you're on right now and you would indulge us, just go ahead and there's a little red button on the bottom right corner of our broadcast, and it is a subscribe button. So if you hit that button on the right corner and on the bottom right, you can subscribe to our respective channels, and we appreciate that. One final thought, Dr. Stella, you used the word indoctrinate. And as I heard you use that word, I was thinking doctor is in that word, indoctrinate. And so, in essence, what we need to do is we need to become our own doctors. There is
Mm-hmm.
a saying, physician, heal thyself. And when you
Exactly.
gather the
That's exactly what we're
appropriate
doing.
knowledge,
We got to
you
unlearn.
ain't
We
got
got
to.
to unlearn and then relearn.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
So we got to unwrap and
yes,
tear down a lot of the negative pillars and negative information that are put in us. And then we have to learn. So that is what we're doing. We're peeling it down for you, absorb it, and then take action and continue to learn. It's a journey. Um, most of what I know today that I'm talking to you about, I didn't learn them in school. I didn't learn them in school. I didn't go into any formal course. It's a lot of them is self-tutoring, utilizing all the information that is in the internet. And also know that not every information that you get on the internet are credible. So you must learn to distinguish between credible information and non-credible information, and have a resource persons that you can clear things with. So it just has to be a discerning spirit. Otherwise, you can just get into the rabbit hole and get lost.
yes. Well, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Hamtonio and Dr. Vince and Dr. Stella. And I'm going to encourage you to become doctors as well. With all that said, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your absolute best day, you all. Peace.
Peace, peace.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank
Peace.
you. Peace.